Hello, I'm Gary Thornton, Content Director, Poultry for White Publishing Company, and I'm here with Homer Myers, who's written a book about Jesse Jewell. It's called Pass the Chicken Please, The Life and Times of Jesse Jewell. Homer, could you tell us a little bit about how you got the idea to write this book?
Yes, sir, Gary. I'm from Gainesville, Georgia, Hall County. Grew up on a farm there. Spent my whole life there. It's at what time I was in school in the Army, and I've been in the insurance business. I do a newsletter, and the newsletter doesn't require much artwork, but a local artist was helping me one day who is not from the area, and she asked me about Jesse Jewell. She asked me if I knew him, and I said no. My dad was a school teacher, farmer, didn't know Jesse Jewell. And she said, well, reckon how many people travel Jesse Jewell Parkway, which is a main thoroughfare through Gainesville, who really don't know who he was. And I said, well, I don't have any idea. Probably the vast majority. There's so many new people there. And then she said, well, you should write a book about him. And that's kind of where the idea got started. She encouraged me to do it.
Well, tell us a little bit about Jesse Jewell. There may be some of our viewers who are familiar with it, with his life story, and others who aren't.
The older ones of us would be familiar with him, or if you're from Gainesville, the Southeast. Probably younger people would not be unless you look at the Poultry Hall of Fame. Jesse Jewell was a true pioneer in the poultry industry. He came up with the integrated, if he didn't come up with it, credited with the idea of integrated poultry processes, he's the fellow who took it to fruition. And he came back from the Florida land bust as a broke young man. He went to the University of Alabama, University of Georgia Tech, and was a surveyor. His mother owned a feed store in Gainesville, Georgia. Again, this is during the Depression. Farmers had come out. They were sharecroppers, as my grandfather was. You had that kind of work. You had cotton mills, textiles, and that was it. And Jesse went out to farmers with the idea of, we'll provide the feed, we'll provide the chickens, and we'll buy them back from you in 12 weeks. And from that, it mushroomed into a company that really mushroomed in World War II. They bought every chicken that the Jewell Company produced, and he became a legend in the industry. He really was a unique, gifted guy.
Well, I guess it was an interesting project to talk with so many people in the industry, and I imagine you had to you were able to work with a family.
It was a real treat. You're exactly right, Gary. We after I talked with the lady, her name is Ann Brody Hill, the artist, I called the son-in-law of Jesse Jewell, a fellow named Jack Prince, who people in the poultry business will know. He's been successful himself in the deboning area. He's retired now. And I asked Jack for permission. I said, I'm not going to pursue this without the blessings of the family. He called me back in a couple of days and said, that's fine. We'd like for you to go ahead. Him and a fellow named Gordon Sawyer, who's had big-time success in agriculture and advertising, sat with me at the Northeast Georgia History Center. And there's a Hall of Fame there with about 60 names on it, or more, maybe 100 names. And they gave me a legal pad, and they would, Gordon Sawyer and Jack Prince would say, you need to call this man, you need to call this woman, all these heavyweights, and some people who, of course, passed on. And my wife bought me a tape recorder, and over a period of 5 years, I interviewed about 55 people. 3 of those fellows died before the book came out. But we had a big kickoff in Gainesville when we brought the book forward. We invited everybody we interviewed, and believe it or not, it was 100% attendance, including the widows of the 3 fellows who passed away. One was Joe Hatfield, who's a poultry legend himself, and Mr. Hatfield's widow was there, and we were able to give them the copies of the tapes and some to the History Center. And it was just a lot of fun just to watch all those folks get together who really don't see each other except at funerals and at those kind of events anymore, and to enjoy themselves for a couple of hours. Chick-fil-A provided the chicken, and we had a great time.
What's your favorite Jesse Jewell story from the book, would you say?
Be hard to pick. He didn't come up with the idea of New York dress. People like me ain't got any idea what that's about. He hauled everything in a real truck. I guess the favorite thing about Jesse was that a fellow named Coy Skaggs, who's an old-time poultry guy, said that Jesse had a new idea every day. It came to him while he was shaving. Jesse really was a great business person. He was a promoter and a marketer without compare. And in all the interviews, I never met or talked to anybody that said Jesse took advantage of them. Matter of fact, several people said almost the same words, that he was generous to a fault. He knew how to make money. Money wasn't important to him. What was important was the fun of all. And some of his ideas flopped, but he came up with a lot of ideas that worked as well.
Well, tell us a little bit of how people could get a copy of your book.
Well, I had a friend tell me when I started that go ahead and do it and get it out of your system, but he said be sure and keep your day job, which I've done. But a local printing company in Gainesville, Georgia Printing, prints up the books for me. They're friends and clients of mine, and their name is Georgia Printing. Their phone number is 770-536-1321. You can call them. You can call me. My email is homer@homersporch.com. And that's about the only marketing we've done. But I will say this, I'm not bragging, I'm thankful. We've sold enough of the books to make a profit, which my wife was very pleased to know, and so I'm thankful. It's been received very well.
Thank you very much for joining us here today, Homer. I've enjoyed it very much.
Well, thank you a bunch. Thank you for letting me, for hosting me here.